Welcome to another episode of Forging Better Humans podcast. I am your host. Today we've got, as you guys should know by now, we've had him on a few times, Terrie Bourgeois from American Combat Club, our black belt instructor here at Iron Legion. Also, I nicknamed him Bat Boy. He doesn't like it. But if you've seen ESPN recently, he is the guy who broke the 3 fucking bats. And I know you saw that video. That's the motherfucker right there.
I think the first Iron Legion Jiu Jitsu shirt should be him in that position.
I said
on
that.
The back.
I said that. I think we would make a killing.
Like black and white.
Well, like when we went to your meet, and I was like, no one knows who you are because we need to make shirts that have you on it. So then they'll be like, oh, I fucking knew your face.
Oh, God, this is the worst thing to be famous for.
He loves this attention. Yeah, anyway. And then we got Jacob Kelly. So Jacob Kelly is who I want to take some time to introduce today. He's one of our athletes that has recently competed in one of the first, not one of our first jiu-jitsu competitions, because we have had a competition before, but I think it was our first athlete to go to a federated or a sanctioned style jiu-jitsu meet with New Breed. So I want to talk about that. And also introduce Jacob as an athlete, how he came to Iron Legion. I know when he originally came to us, I believe he was training in his garage. He had just recently moved here from out west.
Seattle.
And he was training, I think in his garage, he was training the space program, Mark Twight's space program with nonprofit. Are you still doing?
No,
you got off that. Okay, so I think he's moved to more Wolf Brigade style stuff, some strongman style training, some lifting, powerlifting type stuff, and you're doing a lot of shit like that in your garage. But your combatives, I think when you came to us, you had just recently came out of a judo school, so you were moving.
It had been a while.
Yeah, it'd been a while, right?
But I hadn't done it for very long either.
Yeah, so you came to us because we had strength and conditioning and we had jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So he jumped in with both feet, and so I want to talk about your journey to the actual competition. You know, what was your drive, how to get there, that type of stuff. And I'm going to kind of turn it over to you and Terrie to talk about that. But what kind of led you to want to compete? And then what was your build up to the competition? And then how did you feel, during and after, that type of stuff?
Yeah. So I was coming up on, I guess, well, now it's been a little over a year of doing jiu-jitsu, but I'd always enjoyed watching competitions. I'm like, man, like that looks super fun. And I'd love to do that one day. And then I was like, well, screw it. I've been doing it for a year. So I just hopped online, and I knew of New Breed from other people in the gym that had done it before. And it just so happened that there was one coming up right at the 1 year mark. So I thought, that might be like a cool way to kind of, well, competition in general is like a, decent way to test your skills. But then also like it being at like a 1 year marker, I thought was also kind of cool.
It's a milestone. It's a milestone.
Yeah. So then, I was like, well, here we go. I signed up, and I remember I just like kind of casually mentioned to Terrie while leaving class, like, oh, by the way, signed up for this competition. So, can you help me? And I was kind of expecting a few more rounds at the end of class, because when I first started, you guys were training for Blood on the Mats of the Devotion. So I had kind of seen that part of what like the camp is like. So I was like, okay, there's going to be more roles, and then maybe a little bit more like focused instruction as far as like positions and things like that. But what I ended up getting from Terrie was way more than I could have ever imagined. As far as conditioning, then even one-on-one instruction on the mats, and then breathing exercises, like the whole thing. It was a really well-rounded, well-informed, very comprehensive program. And when it came time to do the competition, it was very funny. There was a moment in my head where I was wrestling and I was just like, this dude's tired, but I'm not. And I was just like, it's all paying off.
I think I saw that in your face, actually. I saw 2 of those moments. That moment, and I also saw the one where like, am I getting any points?
Yes.
Or something like I could see it on your face, and I'm like, no, you got all.
And then I got scolded for looking. I got scolded at looking at the scoreboard later.
Yeah. I think I even said during your match, don't look at the fucking time.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a really big part of being a competitor and an athlete, and that's something that I learned early on, is that fatigue makes cowards of us all, right? And that came from my catch wrestling background. I have a lineage through Carl Gotch, and Carl Gotch was famous for saying conditioning is your greatest hold, and that was a big part of anybody that wanted to train under him. You had no choice but to be incredibly conditioned. He wouldn't even teach you any wrestling until you met a certain standard of conditioning, and that was it, you know. And that was how he weeded people out. He would put you through incredibly like heinous workouts trying to break you, and if you made it through them, then okay, well, now you've earned the right to learn catch wrestling because now your body can physically do it.
Yeah. So it was interesting. So I wasn't athletic growing up at all. I never did any sports as a kid. I never, like in high school and middle school, I never wrestled or baseball, like, for various reasons, you know, like we moved a lot. So I just never took the time to get involved in it. So I feel like when I say like anyone can do it, like truly anyone can do it. Like I don't have any like really competitive athletic or any athletic experience whatsoever. And I remember even when I got the program, or where Terry was talking me through it, and I was just looking at this volume of work, and I was just like, this isn't happening. I was like, there's no way. And I'm supposed to get like, you know, 8 hours of sleep every night, like everyone says. But I remember I had that first week off from work. I happened to be on vacation that first week, so I was able to get like the schedule built and hit all workouts. And the second week came around and I was like, you know what, like, let me just try. Like I can wake up a little bit earlier twice a week to do like, you know, the conditioning workouts before the jiu-jitsu in the evening so I can like space it out. And I kind of just like hit the stride and kind of like got into a schedule. I like having something to like work towards. Like when I have like a specific goal in mind, I'm pretty good at like putting my nose to the grindstone and just like making it work. So yeah, and every single week I got, you know, my workouts in, but yeah, it was a really great experience overall. And then it definitely paid off.
How did you handle your strength training during that time? Did you increase it, decrease it? Did you increase more jiu-jitsu time?
Yeah, so
how did that balance shift from like your normal, I mean, you don't have to super elaborate, but like,
yeah.
was there an ebb and a flow to, you know, one had to, cause I know when I was doing it with, for the devotion match, when I was doing my fight camp, I had to pull CrossFit 100%. I couldn't do any CrossFit at all. I just did not have the gas left at the end of the day to do fight camp, regular jiu-jitsu, CrossFit, strongman, and Olympic lifting all in like the same fucking week. It was impossible. So like something had to give. So I had to pull different pieces out. And then even after my fight and that whole thing that I did, I've left some of those pieces out because I realized I really didn't need them because jiu-jitsu kind of handles a lot of my Metcon anyway. I didn't really like CrossFit as much anymore. I really like leaning into jiu-jitsu a little bit more for my Metcon, and for my strength, I do more strongman stuff. So like, talk about that.
Yeah. So before I started training for competition, it was pretty much, I would do jiu-jitsu 2 to 3 times a week. And then I was mostly doing just like barbell strength training with maybe one day of like steady state cardio or some type of like more cardio, more conditioning workout. So in the beginning, I did just stick with strength, but eventually the pure barbell strength kind of went away and we just replaced it with
more endurance.
Yeah, more endurance stuff.
Yeah,
so eventually, as we got closer to the date, it was kind of like more endurance stuff and more high intensity cardio stuff. And I honestly didn't touch a barbell at all for like the last, I want to say like 5 weeks or something. So I would say that's the major shift, was just getting away from barbell strength training, which was actually kind of refreshing because I was getting kind of bored just like training in the shed, just lifting. So it was cool for me to just get to do something new and kind of like kept me engaged. And it was also, and Terry said it multiple times during the camp, where it's like everybody says they want to be a fighter until it's time. And that's true. Like, you know, I watch people on YouTube compete and I'm like, oh, like that looks dope, I want to try that. And then when, you know, you feel like you're going to throw up and your head's going to explode from this workout. And then you know that you have to do jiu-jitsu that night. You're like,
You haven't even finished a third of your day's training yet.
Yeah. It really, so it kind of like, I guess shows you to really be shown like what it takes to do the thing that you say you want to do, was a very enlightening process for me. And then I think to have achieved it even on like a small level is like pretty cool for me.
Yeah, I mean, even in strength sports, you know, when you're training for an Olympic weightlifting meet or a powerlifting meet or strongman, you're only going to get so strong before an event. So there's got to be a point where you can stop trying to escalate your weight and try to get stronger for that event. And it's like then it's more tapering down and just moving well, trying to recover well right before the event. I would imagine with something like this is very similar. Like you're just going to try to not so much eliminate the barbell, but we're not trying to peak out our strength 2 weeks away from a jiu-jitsu match, right? So like you're going to probably peel that away. You're going to work on some endurance type stuff. You're going to work on flow, moves, different type things like that, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it comes down to what you already do as a person. I mean, you're somebody who has consistently for decades lifted weights, right? So, I mean, for you, you're not going to get the same ROI as somebody who doesn't lift weights consistently when it comes to strength gains, right? So, I'm a huge believer in the compound effect, and when you start talking about adapting a human being, strength adaptations take a long time. It's a very long-term adaptation that requires consistency and discipline. Anybody who's gotten really strong, everybody wants to attribute it to whatever they want to attribute it to, their physical attributes, drug usage, whatever. But at the end of the day, it does not happen without discipline and consistency. But that's really a common mistake, is that people try and build strength over the course of 8 weeks, and it won't fucking happen. Like You're going to make gains, but nothing that's going to be, mind-blowingly significant to your performance. That's something that has to be, that foundation has to be laid long before the camp even happens. So when you start going into camps for a competition, what we're really trying to do is, initially we got to really build up that aerobic base, because what we do in fighting has you have to have a massive anaerobic threshold, right? Well, your aerobic base is what feeds that anaerobic threshold. It replenishes it, right? So, building an aerobic base is a short-term adaptation when you look at it from a meta perspective of human adaptation, right? So that is something that you can build over the course of 8 weeks pretty significantly,
right?
So that really sets the foundation for it, and it's a really big misconception, which was such a testament to what Jacob did, where I told him, I was like, look, man, you don't have to think, all you have to do is execute. I've laid everything out for you. If you execute, you will succeed. And the really big misconception is that you have to be training 7 days a week to be good at this stuff. And he's somebody who has a full-time career. He's got a wife, 2 young kids. Both your kids are under 5, right?
My oldest just turned 5.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got your hands full. You just don't have the schedule to live a life like I live, where I do jiu-jitsu 7 days a week. Like, it's just not on the table, and a lot of people think that they're incapable of succeeding in this sport and competing and reaching high levels without that. And it's just simply not true.
Right.
You have to be taking advantage of the compound effect whenever possible. And that's really what your whole camp revolved around.
And training smart.
Yeah. And just limiting injury as much as possible. And we quite frankly had what I would consider to be like the perfect camp. And I told you the week before the competition, I was like, you're going to experience something that very few people have ever experienced, where you're going into a competition without any injuries. That never happens. And that never happens because of this misconception that you have to train 2-3 times a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
And it's just not true.
Which, yeah, it makes more sense. Anyway, I don't want to go to competition injured. I mean, it gets in your head right off the rip, right? So it's similar. It's a really similar camp experience for a CrossFit event too. I mean, it's something that like you're not really focusing on your strength capacity as much inside of those last 8 weeks. If you're looking at high level CrossFit events, they're very similar to these jiu-jitsu styles, where it's like you're really looking at aerobic capacity and being able to endure, and that's what you're really wanting to fine tune your hard to kill piece, right? And I think that's what you did really well. I remember having a conversation with you beforehand, maybe a couple weeks beforehand. You know, we were talking about the training and stuff, and I was like, it's just like those fucking old Rocky movies where, you know, you just got to stick with it. You got to stick with that coach. You can't be bouncing around, going to every fucking gym in town, trying to pick up tips and tricks and trying to get shit off of Instagram and practice some random shit on everybody's random fucking mats all over town, trying to get better, and then go to a meet and expect to be good. Like, you need to stay the course. You need to pick a coach. You need to pick a fucking team and stick with it and ride that line all the way to the mat. And then when you get to the competition, look how it turns out.
Yeah. And to that point, that's when everybody is looking to get into this fitness journey, is one of the most common things is they just bring up all these different programs that they researched online. And that's the thing. All of those programs that are written by these high-level professionals, they all work. Yeah. But they work for different reasons. So you can't hybridize all of them together and try and fit all of them in. They work for different reasons. So you have to stay the course on a specific one to see the benefits of that program.
See it all the way through to the end. Yeah. And you'll get sick. You'll get success out of it, as you've seen, and you're continuing to see. So I think that we all are, you know, staying the course with something like this. So I'm not big on program jumping either. I'm a big advocate here at the gym. Just like when I see guys, and we have people here that do it, I can't stop them. You know, with our CrossFit guys, they do that fucking mayhem shit or linchpin, and they'll see some cool workout that they want to do. And as far as I'm concerned, or even the CrossFit Open comes in and it just completely sabotages their fucking training, throws everything in the shitter. You know, they're not doing progressive workouts anymore. They're just doing flash and bang bullshit. And it's not really helping their training. It's not moving them forward as an athlete. Now, does it have a social aspect and a cool hangout feel to it? Sure. I'm sure doing some of those Jiu Jitsu videos with your buddies in a garage from here time to time has the same feel. Mm-hmm. Is it actually making you feel better? Are you getting better? Are you training better? I doubt it. Because you're not really staying the course on a program. You're having the social aspect of it, which is a big piece of human life anyway. It's a good thing to do, but like, it's not really furthering your actual experience as an athlete. So as far as I'm concerned,
or even with like programs and people coming to jiu-jitsu, and it's like, I don't need to learn how to escape side control. I can just buggy choke someone.
Yeah. Yeah,
they don't want to learn the basics,
the hack, the secret.
Yeah, exactly.
The hacks and the secret. That shit fucking
because the fundamentals are boring.
It's a lie. But it's always a lie.
It is a lie.
And you know, all these people that look at stuff like that. I mean, I think that it's fantastic to go out and explore and learn new things and adapt and hybridize things and, you know, constantly be looking at what you're doing and trying to evolve it and make it better. But when it's competition time and you're in the on season,
when it's game time and you have a fucking goal,
the off season is for that.
Right, the off season is for that, exactly. I agree with that part of it. Where are we going with this? So you're training for your next event now?
Yes. So we walked out of the gym at New Breeds, and I looked at Terrie and I was like, "So there's a grappling industries in July in Orlando." Literally, it was like first thing I said. I hadn't signed up for it yet, but
right.
And he was like, "All right, well, I guess technically you would have started last week, so let's just start."
I think you mentioned it to me before you even stepped on the fucking podium with your gold medal.
Yeah,
you're like, "Oh yeah, there's another competition coming up." I was like, "Dude, you just relax, get your gold medal first." Like, what the fuck?
Enjoy your moment, man. They're fleeting. They're fleeting. They don't come often.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I like having something to work towards. But yeah, so there's a new competition, and I feel like maybe I feel slightly more pressure because it's like now I want to prove that like the first time wasn't like luck or wasn't like a fluke.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Well, that would be a thing if you were facing the same people. But you're not facing the same people, so don't even think of it like that.
Right.
That's putting unnecessary pressure on yourself. Just stay the course. Follow the protocols just like before.
Yeah.
That's it. You've got the recipe, man. No need to fuck with it.
Just engage.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yep. Keep up the same work ethic. That's really it. It's the compound effect, man. You got to ride that momentum.
So what are your plans moving forward? I mean, obviously that event, but what's training going to be looking like after something like that? Are you going to look at doing competitions all year? Are you going to try to make it a thing? Or you
do
you have a goal to maybe make Pan Ams, something like that? Are you looking to go something bigger, or
I think after this one, I'll probably
Whatever you
slow
say,
it down for the rest of the year. Say that again.
Whatever you say, I'm gonna hold you to it.
I think after this one, I might slow down a little bit. I've been looking at the calendars, and there wasn't a ton going on after the summer. But I think something like 2 to 3 competitions a year is like a goal that I have in mind.
It's a reasonable goal. That's pretty average.
Yeah.
Like, I was competing like once a month forever. That's not normal. Like a lot of my teammates do the same thing. And that's if you're doing it for your fucking living, man. Like that's a completely reasonable goal with the life you have set up for yourself. You don't need to compete every single month. That's
I think that gives you enough milestones to keep you driven throughout the year and have a cool event crescendo. Every quarter or so. Something that's
and I think
realistic.
maybe it's getting slightly bigger in competition as I progress through jiu-jitsu. So like maybe like IBJJF, like Pans or like Nogi Worlds or something like that. If we just want to throw something like gigantic out there. But I'm also just like kind of Terry said, I don't think I'm trying to make a career out of competitive jiu-jitsu. It's just like I enjoy training. I enjoy jiu-jitsu and, just like working out, and competitions like kind of this like fun byproduct of that where I get to test myself and like what I've learned. And
so how does that stuff bleed over into your regular personal life, your job, your career, those types of things, training here at Iron Legion that we found with most of the people that I have on the podcast when we're talking, we're talking about how this type of training here, whether it's jiu-jitsu, CrossFit, weightlifting, and our style, our message, our mindset type training usually appeals to people who have higher levels, higher operating jobs, managers, owners, entrepreneurs, different things like that. A lot of those type of people work out here. You're one of them. So how does this type of training affect your day-to-day? Is it something that helps you get through your day-to-day? Is it a stress reliever? What does it do?
Yeah, for sure. I would say there's definitely, since I usually come to the no-gi on Tuesday and Thursdays, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, if it gets stressful, I just like breathe. You'll get to go to jiu-jitsu later.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, I typically try to save my workouts for the evening for that same reason as well. I also say, I think being able to, having an increased capacity for handling physical stressors definitely, I feel like being able to handle mental stressors, my capacity for that has increased pretty drastically. So like I have noticed, especially like going through this camp, that like mental stress at work doesn't get to me like as much as it used to.
Right.
And
those are the wins that I like hearing about.
Yeah. Because just from like a training load perspective, you know what I mean? When you're walking into work like already sore, and then like I said, and then that you have 5 rolls to do at the end of the day.
Right.
Then when the camp was over and competition was over, I remember like I went to work and I was just like, man, like I'm not sore. I got a cold brew on the way to work. Like life is good.
You look at the end of the day and you go, this ain't shit because I got to fight people later and that's going to suck.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing you can throw at me in the world.
And if there's not enough people, Terry's going to make me wrestle him.
Yeah.
Right.
So, we've had that where you had to wrestle me like 3 rounds in a row.
And he doesn't let you tap.
A 17-minute flow roll.
17-minute roll.
Yeah. With no taps. And,
I reference that frequently. I'm like, this song kind of sucks, but it doesn't suck as much as a 17-minute roll with Terry. So
all in all, good podcast, good conversation, introducing you guys to Jacob. He's just doing some awesome shit. So really wanted to take a minute to talk about your competition, how you got here, how it's affecting your day-to-day life, and give you some kudos, man. Congrats on the gold medal and keep kicking ass. And bat boy.
And for all those people out there that want to come up with all these fucking excuses of I've got kids and I've got a job and my wife this and I've got that. You've got a literal
all those things.
Perfect example right here where he's got all of those things and he doesn't use those excuses to fail.
No.
He comes in, he does the work. I gave him the protocols. I monitor everything remotely. He did everything exactly like I said. And then he went out there and he fucking dominated. His finals match, he won 17-3. And the only reason his opponent scored those 3 points is because he was late on turning his hips over. That's it. And we fixed that mistake immediately as soon as his match was over. And we came in the next day and we drilled that. So that's never going to happen again. And that's somebody with full-time job, wife, 2 kids. One just turned 5, and the other one's what, 2?
2, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, fuck your excuses.
Yep. And that's our episode, Forging Better Human podcast. Out. I mean, we could have just kept going for fucking ever.
Yeah.